I'm going to bring up my friend Lindsey. Give her a big virtual round of applause.
Thank you so much for having me, Travis. I'm excited to speak to the group today. I stared at this cliff and I wondered, how was I ever going to jump off of it? It was an obstacle unlike anything I had done before. I was participating in my very first 24-hour obstacle course race in the desert of Las Vegas, and this cliff stared me down during the day. The race started at 2 p.m., and this particular obstacle didn't open until midnight, which meant that for 10 hours, you ran around that 5-mile loop staring at the cliff. And I got more and more and more nervous. It opened at midnight, and as soon as that clock struck midnight, I found myself marching up the hill towards the cliff. And suddenly my legs felt like they wouldn't even hold me anymore, and I got more and more nervous. But I was determined to do it because there was a penalty loop. I could opt out, but even before the event had started, I was committed. I was going to jump off this cliff. So I took my wobbly legs to the top of the platform, and I looked out, and I saw nothing. Black everywhere. So I stood there in my wetsuit, and this kind volunteer came up to me and he said, in the most calm voice, all you have to do is walk to the edge of the platform, cross your arms, look out in front of you, and walk off. And I thought to myself, okay, buddy, all I have to do is walk to the edge of the platform and just walk off. But that really was all I had to do. And I was at the top of the platform with nowhere to go. So I took his advice. I put my toes on the edge. I crossed my arms. I didn't look down. I looked straight ahead. And I just walked off the platform. And as I was falling, I remember thinking, I'm never going to hit the water. There's no water underneath me anywhere. And I'm picking up speed and I'm picking up speed. And all of a sudden, I hit the water. I had jumped off that cliff. Many laps later, many hours later, I found myself atop of this cliff again. And the only thing that stood between me and the finish of my very first 24-hour obstacle course race was another jump off this cliff, a swim through the lake, a climb out, and over to the finish. So I stood at the top of the cliff and I did exactly what that volunteer had told me to do many hours ago, and I jumped off. But when I got towards the edge of the water, I heard all of these people yelling frantically, and they're yelling 3 minutes. And I thought to myself, what are they saying? Because at this point, I can't really comprehend much. What they were saying is that I only had 3 minutes to get myself out of the water and to the finish line. Because even though it was a 24-hour race, you had an additional 90 minutes to finish. So it was effectively a 25-and-a-half-hour race, and I was down to the last 3 minutes to make it to the finish line. So in the most pivotal moment of my life, as I was climbing out of the water, strangers, friends, family, people who were just there, everyone started cheering and running us into the finish, running side by side, cheering, chanting. And I ended up picking up speed and sprinting at the end of a 25-and-a-half-hour race. And we did finish the race with 30 seconds to spare. Never in my wildest dreams would I have imagined a life in which I would put on a wetsuit, wear it for almost 24 hours, run around in the desert of Las Vegas, crawl through mud, jump off of cliffs, and do obstacles, all in the name of fun. Because most of my life, I really was excited to adult, to be an adult, to have adult responsibilities, to have an adult job, that I never could have imagined a life that included running around in the mud. But you see, the joke was on me, because when I got to my mid-20s, I found that being an adult and adulting was actually quite overwhelming. I felt pretty stressed. Social media had really become popular, which brought in a lot of comparison-itis. and what are other people doing? And then I found myself asking myself this question: how do you make friends as an adult? So I want to stop here and ask you a question. Do you ever avoid social interaction? Do you ever use your phone as maybe a buffer tool between you and someone else? Or do you ever think to yourself, I should join that club or I should try that new activity? I should really do that. That's a great idea. And then consciously and sometimes unconsciously, we find ourselves thinking, nope, that's just too hard. I'm too busy. I have too many commitments and I just don't have time. And well, that's a little scary also. So I want to ask you another question. Do you think there's a connection between social connectedness and physical, mental, and emotional well being? Keep that question in mind as we move forward. So let's go back to my mid 20s. I was effectively having this little personal crisis, needing that social connectedness, not really knowing what to do. So I did what, any overachieving person would do, and I went back to graduate school. And it was great, but spoiler alert, it did not really fix what I was looking for, and I was still left sort of longing for something. In 2011, I did my very first obstacle course race. So that was 4 years before I jumped off of that cliff. And if you look at this picture from the second from the left, if you look at it closely, you can tell I am nervous. I have no idea what I'm in for. I'm so nervous I could throw up. I'm uncomfortable in my body. I don't even really know where I am or what I'm about to do. I had never done anything like this before. And then an interesting thing happened that day. Every obstacle I came to, people were cheering, they were so supportive, and I pretty much failed every single obstacle. But every time I failed one, I got this idea that, well, maybe the next one I could do. I don't know what's coming up, but I'm excited to try it. And even in failure, I found this growing confidence within myself. And there were all these people there cheering me on, whether I was instantly successful at the obstacle or I failed it. They were cheering me on. So I took that confidence into my regular life and I started ninja training and doing some parkour training to help me with these races. But this confidence started to grow and I found myself being more open to meeting new people. I was more open at my job. I was networking more. And I just started to become a little bit more connected and my confidence started to grow. I also started to travel around the country to different races. And at a race in Michigan, we were running behind a woman and her adult son. And we were approaching this obstacle called Everest, which is essentially a half pipe wall that you run up. And after we completed that obstacle, I said, let's stay here and let's wait for her and her son and help them up the wall. So we did. And her son got up the wall, and then she ran up the wall and fell, and ran up the wall and fell over and over. And we were cheering her on. And she finally said, I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm going to go around. And we said, no, you can do this. So we built a human chain and we got her up the wall. The look of sheer excitement on her face is one that I will never forget. And then she asked the question, why did you stay here to help a stranger? Like, I really don't understand why you stayed here. You took time out of your own race to help someone you didn't even know. And I told her, well, that's what happens out here. We are a community. We'll help you up because you are likely going to help another person up. And I also told her, well, and I fell 8 times that first day in 2011 when I tried this obstacle. So I know what it's like to have people help you. And so she smiled and had really a life-changing event. And because the world is pretty funny in the universe with its timing, she happened to just be in Minneapolis a couple of weeks later. So we were able to meet up with her again. This woman's name is Buffy, and her story does not end there. If you look at the picture of all the blue shirts, that's 1 year later at the event. She had taken her experience of bravery, where she went to this event and had no idea what she was going to do. And then she met strangers who were kind and part of the community. And she told that story and recruited her friends to come and have that kind of experience. And then what happened that next year? They told their friends. So, from one instance where we extended a hand to a stranger, she told that story and brought people into this world. They brought more people in, and the community grew and grew and grew because courage is contagious. Brene Brown, who is a researcher on shame, says courage is contagious. Every time we choose courage, we make everyone around us a little bit better and the world a little bit braver. I want to share with you my moment of bravery. This is one of my most flattering photos. And I put this on social media. And social media is always an interesting place with people filtering and making their photos look perfect just to show up a certain way on the internet. But I put this picture out there because it represents the experience I had jumping off that cliff, the community of people that were around me, that supported me, the strangers that cheered me on, and that confidence shift that I had had by being in this community. I was actually a living, breathing example of the link between social connectedness and physical, mental, and emotional well being. So hopefully you would also put a picture like this up on the internet if it symbolized for you an experience that you had. So now let's talk about social connectedness even deeper. Social connectedness can lead to increased longevity, recovery from disease faster, a boosted immune system, lower levels of anxiety and depression, can make you more trustworthy, and boost your self-esteem. And what happens is you create this positive feedback loop. When you are more connected and you become more confident, you put that into the world and it circles around. So let's think about social connectedness and building a business. How can that help you? It seems obvious, right? The more connected you are, the more likely you are to grow a business. But in the world that we're living in currently, where social distancing is required, it might feel challenging, it might feel impossible. You might think, well, it's just not worth it. But ask yourself this question: how can I be more connected? Because the truth is, in growing a business and in growing your business relationships, we need each other now more than ever. The impact that you can have by reaching out to someone, by saying, hey, let me pull you up this obstacle, by calling a contact and saying, how can I help you in your business? By friending that person on LinkedIn, starting a professional relationship, leaving a voice memo for someone on social media that you've never met that you like and you want to support. Or thinking about, how can I collaborate? That's really important as well. But it can be really hard. It can feel so challenging, especially now. And if you think back to that first race I did in 2011, when it felt impossible, every obstacle was so hard. I had imposter syndrome about, I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be the one doing this. I don't know what I'm doing. That's how it can feel in business. And it can feel impossible. Well, I have all these excuses, this is happening in the world. How am I supposed to grow my business? I don't have time. I have all these other things going on. But if you ask yourself truly, how can I be more connected? You might find that your own confidence will grow, your self-esteem will grow, your ability to market your business will grow, your actual network will grow, which does seem obvious, but again, it can feel hard. And you can ask, how? And I don't know why or how I'm going to do this. But I leave you with one really, really important piece of advice. Because if you forget how to do this, just remember that volunteer on the top of the platform, he had the best advice. It's 4 things. You step to the edge of the platform. This is the hardest part. When you're at the back of the platform and you don't think you want to go to the front, getting to the front of that platform is the hardest. And in real life, that looks like those things we just talked about: being the first one to reach out, making a new connection, showing up in networking, joining a new social group, learning a new skill, calling friends and family, you being the first one, you taking that step. So once you're on the edge of the platform, you've conquered the hardest thing. Then what you have to do is you just have to cross your arms. And that's like sealing in that confidence from those people around you, right? That network of people, that community, you're sealing that confidence in, borrowing it a little bit if you don't truly believe yet. And then here's the key. Once you've sealed in that confidence, you have to look out. Don't ever look down. Look out. And you'll see all those other people there to support you, the community people cheering you on, telling you that you only have 3 minutes. You'll see those people out there supporting you. And then you're on the edge of the platform. You've crossed your arms. You're looking straight out. There really is only one thing left to do, and that's to walk off the edge and just take the leap. Thank you so much for having me. I've loved spending my afternoon with you.